The coastal town of Harborview Bluffs cradled its secrets between rolling fog and weathered headstones. Nestled against the restless sea, the Harborview Memorial Gardens stood as a silent testament to lives past, a place where marble monuments rose from emerald grass like ancient sentinels guarding memories. Among these silent guardians walked one more vigilant than the rest. Sentinel, a retired police German shepherd whose silver-flecked muzzle betrayed years of dedicated service. His watchful amber eyes surveyed the grounds with purpose. Each methodical patrol performed under the careful supervision of Oliver Blackwood, the cemetery's devoted caretaker. Oliver's face carried the lines of countless seasons spent tending this hallowed ground. Weather-beaten and kind, his expression reflected a quiet dignity that matched Sentinel's own. Together, they formed an unlikely partnership, united in their commitment to maintaining the sanctity of this final resting place. Each dawn painted the sky in watercolor hues as Oliver arrived to find Sentinel already making his rounds, moving with deliberate precision between the graves. The locals had grown accustomed to seeing the majestic shepherd, his purposeful gait belying the years that had slowed his step, but not his dedication. On this particular October morning, something shifted in the cemetery's peaceful rhythm. The air carried an unusual chill that penetrated deeper than mere temperature, and Sentinel's behavior transformed dramatically. Oliver noticed immediately upon approaching the wrought iron gates. Instead of his customary calm vigilance, Sentinel stood rigid with attention, his focus locked on a specific point among the newer headstones. His bark, normally reserved only for genuine threats, echoed through the morning stillness with urgent insistence. Sophia Reynolds, a young police officer recently graduated from the academy and Sentinel's former training partner, had chosen this morning for her regular visit. She maintained a special connection with Sentinel since their days in the K-9 unit, often bringing treats and spending quiet moments with him during her off-duty hours. As she walked through the gates, her trained eye immediately registered the change in Sentinel's demeanor. His typically precise movements had given way to frantic activity, pawing desperately at the earth near a simple granite headstone bearing the name Thomas Whitaker. Sophia approached carefully, police instincts heightening as she observed Sentinel's unusual behavior. The dog's desperate attempts to communicate something urgent were unmistakable to both her and Oliver. The groundskeeper consulted his meticulous records, brow furrowing with concern. "Something's not right," he muttered, flipping through his logbook. "We haven't conducted any ceremonies at this plot recently. This headstone shouldn't be here at all." Sophia knelt beside Sentinel, running her hand through his thick fur in an attempt to calm him, but the dog remained fixated, his entire body tense with purpose. The simple headstone before them bore no flowers, no signs of visitation, just a name and date that Oliver insisted didn't match any of his records. The morning fog began to lift, revealing more details about the mysterious grave. The earth appeared freshly disturbed, but not with the careful, respectful precision that characterized Oliver's work. Something about the scene triggered Sophia's instincts, the same intuition that had led her to follow her father's footsteps into law enforcement. As she pulled out her phone to call her supervisor, Captain James Walker, Sentinel's behavior intensified. His paws were beginning to show signs of wear from his persistent digging, yet he refused to abandon what he clearly perceived as a critical mission. Captain Walker arrived within the hour, his experience-worn face growing serious as Sophia briefed him on the situation. The morning had grown colder, and a light mist settled over the grounds, creating an atmosphere that matched the growing tension. Sentinel hadn't moved from his position, his determination unwavering despite his increasingly raw paws. "Oliver," Walker called to the groundskeeper, who still clutched his logbook like a lifeline. "You're absolutely certain there's no record of this burial?" "Completely certain, Captain," Oliver replied, his voice steady despite his evident concern. "I've maintained these grounds for 15 years. Every burial, every ceremony, every visitor. It's all documented here. This plot was empty 3 days ago when I last inspected this section." The captain knelt beside the headstone, weathered hands running along the edges of the stone. "This is professional work," he muttered, "not some amateur job. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." Sophia watched as Walker made several phone calls, his voice low and urgent. The bureaucratic wheels began turning as he requested an emergency exhumation order from the local judge. The process would take time that Sentinel seemed to sense they didn't have. As the day progressed, something unusual caught Oliver's attention. A black sedan with tinted windows had passed by the cemetery entrance 3 times in the past hour. Each time it slowed nearly to a stop before continuing on its way. The groundskeeper mentioned this to Sophia, who immediately radioed in the vehicle's description to dispatch. The afternoon brought new concerns. During his routine grounds check, Oliver discovered something that made his blood run cold: a piece of meat carefully placed near the mysterious grave. Years of experience told him this was no random occurrence. With trembling hands, he carefully collected the suspicious item using a plastic bag, his heart racing as he realized the implication. Sophia's face paled when Oliver showed her his discovery. "Someone's trying to silence Sentinel," she whispered, her hand instinctively moving to her service weapon. The loyal German Shepherd had potentially uncovered something that someone desperately wanted to keep hidden. Oliver suggested moving Sentinel to the old chapel at the far end of the cemetery. The abandoned building, while no longer used for services, remained structurally sound and offered a secure location away from prying eyes. Sophia agreed, and they quietly relocated Sentinel, despite his initial reluctance to leave his post. The chapel's interior was dusty but dry, its stained glass windows casting colored shadows across the worn wooden floors. Oliver brought water and food for Sentinel, along with a first aid kit to tend to his injured paws. The dog remained alert but allowed the groundskeeper to clean and bandage his wounds, his eyes never leaving the chapel's entrance. As evening approached, Captain Walker returned with news. The judge had expedited the exhumation order, moved by the unusual circumstances and the attempted attack on a former police dog. A forensics team would arrive first thing in the morning to begin the delicate process of investigating the mysterious grave. That night, Sophia volunteered to stay with Sentinel in the chapel, while Oliver maintained his usual routine to avoid arousing suspicion. Through the chapel windows, Sophia watched as shadows lengthened across the cemetery grounds. Sentinel lay at her feet, his bandaged paws temporarily at rest, but his body remained tense, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. In the distance, the black sedan made another pass by the cemetery gates, its engine barely audible in the growing darkness. Sophia documented each appearance, noting times and any distinguishing details she could make out through the deepening dusk. Whatever secret lay buried beneath that headstone, it was clear that others were invested in keeping it concealed. Dawn broke over Harborview Bluffs with an urgency that matched the gravity of the situation. The forensics team arrived precisely at 7, their white vans cutting through the morning mist like ghosts. Sentinel, despite his injured paws, insisted on returning to his vigilant position near the suspicious grave, his determined eyes never leaving the site. The exhumation process began with methodical precision. Every shovelful of earth was carefully removed and documented, while Sentinel watched with an intensity that made even the most experienced forensics officers pause. Sophia stood nearby, her hand resting reassuringly on her former partner's head, feeling the tension in his muscles increase with each layer of soil removed. Captain Walker supervised the operation personally, his years of experience evident in the quiet authority he commanded. The morning progressed slowly, tension mounting with each passing hour. Oliver moved between his regular duties, trying to maintain an appearance of normalcy while keeping a watchful eye on the proceedings. As the team worked deeper into the earth, an unusual discovery caused a ripple of murmurs among the forensic crew. The soil composition changed at a certain depth, indicating recent disturbance, confirming Oliver's insistence that this burial hadn't been conducted through official channels. The discovery of the casket sent a collective shiver through the gathered group. It was a high-end model, the kind typically used in expensive funeral services, but something about its positioning seemed off to the experienced cemetery workers. When the team finally cleared the earth from around the casket, Sentinel's behavior became even more intense, his whines taking on a desperate quality that Sophia had never heard before. With precise care, the forensics team began the process of opening the casket. The silence in the cemetery was absolute, broken only by the sound of technical equipment and sentinels' anxious whimpers. As the lid was carefully lifted, a collective gasp escaped from those present. Inside lay a young man, approximately 20 years old, bound and gagged, and incredibly showing signs of life. The next few moments erupted in controlled chaos. Emergency medical services, which had been standing by as a precaution, rushed forward. The young man, later identified as Thomas Whitaker, was carefully extracted and immediately provided with critical care. His pulse was weak but present, a miracle that seemed to defy explanation. Sentinel's behavior shifted the moment Thomas was safely in the hands of the medical team. The dog's attention suddenly focused on something else, a corner of the casket where the lining had come loose. Sophia, trusting her partner's instincts, as she had so many times before, asked the forensics team to examine that specific area. Their careful inspection revealed a sealed flash drive, wrapped securely in waterproof material and tucked away where it would have been impossible to find without Sentinel's keen senses. The device was immediately secured as evidence, its contents potentially holding the key to understanding this bizarre situation. As the paramedics prepared to transport Thomas to the hospital, Sophia noticed something that made her blood run cold. The black sedan that had been circling the cemetery was back, this time parked across the street. Through her binoculars, she could see its occupants watching the scene intently before suddenly speeding away when they realized they'd been spotted. Oliver approached Sophia, his face etched with concern. "There's something else," he said quietly, leading her to his office. Inside, he showed her a series of photographs he'd taken over the past few days with his groundskeeping camera, meant for documenting maintenance needs, but now revealing something far more sinister. The images showed various unknown individuals conducting surveillance of the cemetery during off hours. Captain Walker quickly organized additional police presence around the cemetery and hospital where Thomas was being treated. The flash drive was rushed to the cyber forensics unit, its contents potentially holding crucial information about why someone would go to such extreme lengths to stage this elaborate scenario. Throughout all of this, Sentinel maintained his protective stance, shifting his attention between the ambulance preparing to transport Thomas and the perimeter of the cemetery. His years of police training seemed to have prepared him for exactly this moment, though none could have predicted such extraordinary circumstances. The cyber forensics team worked through the night, carefully extracting data from the flash drive found in the casket. As dawn approached, the implications of their discoveries sent shockwaves through the department. Thomas Whitaker wasn't just any young man. He was the son of Nathan Whitaker, founder of one of the country's largest digital security companies. Sophia sat in the briefing room, absorbing the information alongside Captain Walker. The flash drive contained encrypted files that, once decoded, revealed a complex web of corporate intrigue. A group calling themselves the Phantoms had orchestrated the entire incident, their ultimate goal extending far beyond a single act of kidnapping. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Thomas remained under heavy security as doctors worked to stabilize his condition. His father, Nathan Whitaker, arrived via helicopter, his face bearing the weight of recent events. The prestigious CEO, known for his innovative cybersecurity solutions, now found himself at the center of a plot that threatened not just his family, but potentially the entire global financial system. Back at the cemetery, Oliver continued his duties with increased vigilance. Sentinel, despite recommendations to rest his injured paws, refused to leave his post. The loyal German shepherd seemed to sense that their role in this unfolding drama was far from over. Sophia's investigation led her to discover something crucial about the cemetery's location. It sat atop the city's main fiber optic cable junction, a detail that seemed too convenient to be coincidental. The placement of Thomas's false grave was directly above a major data hub, a fact that added another layer to the already complex puzzle. As evening approached, Sophia received an urgent call from the hospital. Thomas had regained consciousness briefly, managing to whisper something about a shadow protocol before slipping back into sedation. The medical team assured that his condition was improving, but time remained critical, not just for his recovery, but for unraveling the larger threat they faced. The cyber team's analysis of the flash drive revealed more disturbing details. The Phantoms had been planning a sophisticated cyber attack, using Nathan Whitaker's company security systems as their entry point. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The very systems designed to protect against such threats were being targeted as a means of attack. Oliver's role grew increasingly important as his detailed observations provided crucial timeline information. His meticulous records of cemetery activities helped identify patterns in the suspicious vehicle's appearances. Each visit seemed to coincide with specific times when the city's data traffic peaked, another piece of the puzzle falling into place. Sentinel's behavior had evolved since the discovery. While maintaining his protective watch, he began showing particular interest in the cemetery's western section near the old maintenance shed. Sophia, having learned to trust her former partner's instincts implicitly, began discreet surveillance of the area. The shed, she discovered, had a direct line of sight to both the hospital and the city's main server facility. As night fell over Harborview Bluffs, the team gathered in Oliver's office to consolidate their findings. The small room, usually reserved for burial records and maintenance schedules, now served as an impromptu command center. Maps spread across his desk showed the cemetery's location relative to key city infrastructure, revealing patterns that had gone unnoticed for years. Sophia's phone buzzed with a message from the cyber forensics team. They'd found something else on the flash drive. Hidden within the encrypted files was a countdown timer, quietly ticking away. Whatever the Phantoms had planned, it had a deadline, and they were racing against time to prevent it. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on everyone involved. What had started as Sentinel's unusual behavior at a suspicious grave had evolved into something far more significant. The peaceful cemetery now stood at the center of a plot that threatened to undermine global financial security. Oliver, looking out his office window at Sentinel's shadowy figure patrolling the grounds, shared a revelation with Sophia. He'd been maintaining the cemetery for 15 years, and in all that time, he'd never seen construction work around the data hub area, except for one instance, precisely 3 months before these events began to unfold. Sophia's apartment seemed different that evening as she returned home after the intense day of investigations. The familiar comfort of her small living space had been replaced by an unsettling awareness of vulnerability. Sentinel, who she'd insisted on bringing home due to his injured paws, lay alert by the door, his ears perking up at every sound from the hallway. As she reviewed the case files spread across her coffee table, a subtle click from her kitchen window made her freeze. Sentinel was already on his feet, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Years of police training kicked in as Sophia silently moved toward her service weapon. The shadow that passed across her window wasn't the usual play of tree branches in the wind. Someone was on her fire escape. The next few moments unfolded in a blur of precise action. As the window latch began to move, Sentinel launched into action, his injuries forgotten in the face of threat. The window burst open, and a figure in black tactical gear stumbled backward as the German Shepherd's powerful form collided with them. Sophia's police training took over, her movement swift and decisive as she secured the situation. The intruder wasn't alone. A second figure appeared at her front door, the lock clicking suspiciously. Sentinel, displaying the strategic thinking that had made him legendary in the K-9 unit, positioned himself between Sophia and both entry points. His presence had already thwarted one attacker, and his unwavering focus kept the second at bay until backup arrived. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Thomas Whitaker had regained consciousness long enough to share critical information. The Phantoms weren't just planning to breach his father's security systems. They intended to use them as a smokescreen for a larger operation. Nathan Whitaker's company provided security for major financial institutions worldwide, and a breach would create chaos in the global banking system. Oliver's evening rounds at the cemetery were interrupted by an unexpected discovery near the maintenance shed that had drawn Sentinel's attention. He found fresh boot prints and discarded tech equipment packaging. His years of attention to detail proved invaluable as he documented everything before calling Sophia. The cemetery wasn't just a random location in their plan, it was a crucial piece of the puzzle. The cyber forensics team made a breakthrough in decoding more files from the flash drive. Hidden within layers of encryption were detailed schematics of Nathan Whitaker Company's security protocols. The Phantoms had been planning this operation for months, perhaps years, meticulously gathering information and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Sophia's close call at her apartment forced the team to relocate to a secure location. As they settled into their temporary command center, Sentinel's behavior caught everyone's attention. The dog's focus kept returning to a particular map on the wall, one showing the city's underground cable network. His previous K9 training in detecting electronic devices seemed to be triggering some recognition. Captain Walker coordinated with federal agencies as the scope of the threat became clear. The Phantoms had positioned themselves to launch a sophisticated cyber attack that would cripple financial institutions across multiple continents. The discovery of Thomas and the flash drive had thrown a wrench in their plans, but they were far from surrendering. Oliver's role grew increasingly crucial as his intimate knowledge of the cemetery grounds helped identify potential weak points in the city's security infrastructure. His detailed records of routine maintenance and visitor activities painted a picture of systematic surveillance by the Phantoms, who had been hiding in plain sight for months. As night deepened, Sophia received an encrypted message on her phone. A warning. The Phantoms were making it clear that they wouldn't back down easily. The message contained complex coding that the cyber team began working to decrypt, knowing it might hold vital clues to preventing the impending attack. Sentinel, despite his injuries, remained vigilant. His previous police training, combined with his uncanny ability to detect electronic devices, made him an invaluable asset. The loyal dog had already saved 2 lives, first Thomas's, then Sophia's, and his role in this complex operation seemed far from over. The following morning brought new challenges to the team at Harborview Bluffs. Oliver's usual dawn routine at the cemetery was interrupted by an unsettling discovery. The maintenance shed's lock had been tampered with, and inside, his careful organization had been disrupted. Someone had definitely been searching through his equipment. Sophia arrived at the cemetery earlier than usual, having spent a restless night at the safe house. Sentinel limped slightly beside her, his paws still tender, but his determination unwavering. The morning fog rolling in from the coast created an eerie atmosphere as they made their way to meet Oliver at the maintenance shed. As Oliver began explaining what he'd found, Sentinel's behavior suddenly changed. The German Shepherd's ears perked up and his body tensed. Before either human could react, he was moving with purpose toward the chapel, his injured paws forgotten in the urgency of his mission. Inside the chapel, the morning light filtering through the stained glass windows revealed clear signs of disturbance. Sophia's trained eye caught subtle details: scuff marks on the floor, a displaced hymnal, a slight disturbance in the dust near the altar. But it was what was missing that made her heart race. The small bag containing Oliver's logbooks and cemetery records, which they'd been using to track the Phantom's movements, had vanished. Sentinel moved methodically through the chapel, his nose working overtime as he traced invisible trails. When he reached the back room, his behavior became more intense. Oliver pushed open the door, and they found the window broken from the inside. Whoever had taken the records had made their exit here. Outside the window, fresh traces in the dewy grass led toward the cemetery's eastern wall. But halfway there, the trail suddenly vanished near a cluster of old oak trees. Oliver's face showed genuine confusion. He knew every inch of this ground, every possible exit point, and something wasn't adding up. The cyber forensics team made contact with concerning news. The countdown timer they discovered on the flash drive had accelerated. What they'd initially thought was a weekend deadline was actually set for midnight. The Phantoms were adapting their plans, pushing up their timeline in response to the team's discoveries. As they processed this information, Oliver noticed something odd about the oak trees where the trail had disappeared. One of them had fresh scratch marks at its base, barely visible unless you knew exactly where to look. His years of groundskeeping had taught him to notice the smallest details, and these marks weren't from any natural cause. Sentinel's attention was drawn to the same spot. his nose working overtime near the tree's roots. Sophia joined them, running her hands along the rough bark until she felt something, a slight irregularity in the tree surface. With careful pressure, a hidden panel clicked open, revealing a sophisticated electronic lock. The discovery confirmed their suspicions. The cemetery wasn't just sitting above important data lines, it had been specifically chosen as an operational base. The phantoms had been literally working beneath their feet, using the peaceful grounds as cover for their elaborate scheme. Oliver's face suddenly paled as he made a devastating connection. The missing logbooks didn't just contain routine cemetery records. They also held detailed maps of the grounds, including all the underground utility lines and access points he'd documented over the years. In the wrong hands, that information could be devastating. As if confirming their worst fears, Sentinel's head suddenly snapped up, his attention focused on something in the distance. Through the morning mist, they could barely make out a figure moving swiftly among the headstones, someone who clearly knew they'd been spotted. Without hesitation, Sentinel took off in pursuit, with Sophia close behind, leaving Oliver to quickly contact Captain Walker with their latest discovery. The pursuit through the misty cemetery created an otherworldly scene as Sentinel, despite his injured paws, tracked the mysterious figure with unwavering determination. Sophia followed close behind, her police training evident in her swift but careful movements among the headstones. The figure ahead of them seemed to know the cemetery's layout intimately, taking turns and shortcuts that only someone very familiar with the grounds would know. The chase led Sentinel and Sophia to the oldest section of the grounds, where weathered monuments and ancient family crypts created a maze-like environment. The figure they were pursuing suddenly disappeared into the shadows of a large mausoleum. Sentinel stopped abruptly, his behavior shifting from pursuit to alert caution. Sophia drew her weapon, approaching the structure carefully. Inside the mausoleum, they found not their suspect, but something equally surprising. A sophisticated computer setup carefully concealed behind a false wall. Multiple screens displayed real-time data flows, and one monitor showed a familiar interface: the security dashboard of Nathan Whitaker's company. Captain Walker received an urgent call from the cyber forensics team. They'd managed to decode more of the flash drive's contents, revealing that the phantoms had placed similar hidden stations throughout the city, all connected through the cemetery's underground network. The mausoleum discovery was just one piece of a larger puzzle. As Sophia documented the hidden computer station, Sentinel's attention was drawn to something else: a fresh scent trail leading to a previously unnoticed panel in the mausoleum's floor. Before they could investigate further, Oliver's voice crackled over the radio, his tone urgent. He discovered something in his records that changed everything they thought they knew about the situation. The network installation company that had worked in the cemetery 3 months ago was a front, but not for the phantoms. Oliver had cross-referenced their credentials and found connections to a classified government cybersecurity task force. The cemetery had been chosen as a monitoring station long before the phantoms had begun their operation. This revelation complicated matters significantly. The hidden computer station they discovered wasn't part of the phantom network. It was a counterintelligence operation that had been compromised. The real question was how the phantoms had discovered its existence, and how they had managed to turn it to their advantage. Nathan Whitaker, upon learning this new information, shared a crucial detail with Captain Walker. His company hadn't been randomly chosen either. They had been secretly contracted to provide security for this very government operation. The phantoms hadn't just stumbled upon this vulnerability. They had methodically pieced together fragments of classified information to create their plan. Sentinel's behavior at the mausoleum became increasingly focused on the floor panel. Sophia, trusting her partner's instincts, called in for backup before attempting to investigate further. As they waited, Oliver arrived with an old architectural diagram of the cemetery he'd found hidden in his predecessor's files. The diagram showed something remarkable: a network of underground maintenance tunnels dating back to the cemetery's founding that connected various points throughout the grounds. The pieces were starting to fit together, but time was running out. The countdown continued its relentless march toward midnight, and now they understood why the cemetery had been chosen. It wasn't just about the data lines or the hidden monitoring station. The entire grounds had been designed with secret access points and underground passages, making it the perfect base for both surveillance and subterfuge. The discovery of the underground tunnel system beneath Harborview Memorial Gardens opened up new possibilities and new dangers. As Sophia and Oliver studied the architectural diagrams spread across the maintenance shed's workbench, Sentinel kept a vigilant watch at the door. The dog's ears were perpetually alert, his injured paws temporarily forgotten in the face of the mounting challenges. The tunnel network was more extensive than they'd initially realized. Oliver's predecessor had left behind not just diagrams, but detailed notes about the system's original purpose. Built during a different era, the tunnels had served as a maintenance quarters, allowing groundskeepers to move about the cemetery unseen while performing their duties. But what had once been a practical solution for discreet cemetery maintenance had become something far more significant. Captain Walker arrived with a small team of specialists, including a structural engineer who could verify the tunnel stability. The entrance they discovered in the mausoleum was just one of several access points scattered throughout the grounds. As they began mapping out the network, a pattern emerged. Every entry point corresponded with a location where unusual network activity had been detected. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Thomas Whitaker had made a breakthrough in his recovery. During a conversation with his father, he revealed something crucial about his secret project. It wasn't just a security protocol. It was an artificial intelligence system designed to detect and prevent unauthorized access to global banking networks. The Phantoms hadn't targeted him to bypass the system. They wanted to control it. Back at the cemetery, the team prepared to enter the tunnel system. Sophia insisted on going in first with Sentinel, despite concerns about his injuries. The loyal German shepherd had proven time and again that his instincts were invaluable. And underground, where visibility would be limited, his other senses would be crucial. The tunnels were surprisingly well maintained, showing signs of recent use. Modern LED strips had been installed along the ceiling, providing efficient but discreet illumination. The walls, originally bare stone, now housed state-of-the-art fiber optic cables and computing equipment. Someone had transformed this historic maintenance network into a sophisticated technological hub. As they moved deeper into the tunnel system, Sentinel's behavior became increasingly focused. He led them through a series of turns, each one bringing them closer to what appeared to be a central hub. The temperature dropped noticeably as they approached, the cool air carrying the distinct hum of powerful computing equipment. Oliver, who had joined them despite initial protests about his safety, noticed something odd about the tunnel walls. Years of working in the cemetery had given him an eye for detail, and these walls showed signs of recent expansion. The original tunnels had been widened and reinforced, suggesting a level of investment and planning that went far beyond what the Phantoms alone could have managed. Their exploration led them to a large chamber that appeared to be the network's nerve center. Multiple workstations lined the walls, each displaying scrolling data and security feeds from various locations around the city. But it was what they found at the center of the room that stopped them in their tracks. A sophisticated quantum computing setup, far more advanced than anything they had expected to find. Sophia immediately contacted the cyber forensics team, transmitting images of the equipment they discovered. The response was immediate and alarming. The quantum computer wasn't just for breaking into banking systems. It was capable of simultaneously controlling and corrupting multiple financial networks across the globe. The Phantom plan was far more ambitious than anyone had imagined. Sentinel's attention was drawn to a particular corner of the chamber, where a series of cables disappeared into what looked like a solid wall. His persistent pawing at the spot revealed another hidden panel, this one leading to a smaller room filled with servers. Among them, they found something unexpected. A server marked with the logo of Nathan Whitaker's company. The implications were staggering. The Phantoms hadn't just infiltrated the government's surveillance operation. They had somehow managed to integrate their own equipment into a legitimate security network. Every attempt to monitor their activities had inadvertently provided them with another layer of cover for their true operations. As the team documented their findings, Oliver made another crucial observation. The tunnel system didn't just connect various points within the cemetery, It extended beyond the grounds, linking to other key locations throughout Harborview Bluffs. The cemetery wasn't just their base of operations. It was the center of a web that stretched across the entire city. Time was becoming increasingly critical. The countdown timer continued its relentless progress toward midnight, and now they understood the full scope of what would happen when it reached zero. The Phantoms weren't planning a simple cyber attack. They were positioning themselves to take control of global financial systems, using the very infrastructure designed to protect them. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the cemetery's ancient oaks as Sophia, Oliver, and Sentinel emerged from the tunnel system. Their discovery of the underground network had changed everything, but it had also made them vulnerable. They now knew too much, and the Phantoms wouldn't let that knowledge go unchallenged. Oliver returned to his office to gather additional documents, his mind racing with connections he was just beginning to understand. The network installation company's business card, the old tunnel diagrams, the recent maintenance logs. Each piece told part of a story that was becoming clearer and more disturbing with every passing hour. Sophia noticed something was wrong the moment she saw Oliver's office door slightly ajar. Sentinel tensed beside her, a low growl rumbling in his throat. The office had been ransacked, drawers pulled open, papers scattered everywhere. But more alarming than the chaos was Oliver's absence. The dedicated groundskeeper was nowhere to be found. A quick search revealed signs of a struggle, a knocked-over chair, a scattered collection of keys, and most telling, Oliver's ever-present logbook lying open on the floor. Sentinel immediately began tracking a scent, leading Sophia to the cemetery's side gate. There they found one of Oliver's caps and more evidence of a confrontation. Captain Walker arrived within minutes of Sophia's call, bringing additional officers and launching an immediate search of the grounds. The team split up to cover more ground, with Sentinel leading his group, despite his still tender paws. The loyal dog's determination seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. At the hospital, Thomas Whitaker received an encrypted message on his secure tablet. His father's security team had detected unauthorized access attempts originating from multiple points within Harborview Bluffs. The pattern matched the signature of the Phantoms, but something was different. These attempts weren't trying to break in. They were trying to activate something already inside the system. Sophia's phone buzzed with an urgent update from the cyber forensics team. The quantum computer they discovered in the tunnels wasn't just monitoring network traffic, it was actively mapping the global banking system's security protocols. Every attempted intrusion provided more data, helping the Phantoms build a more complete picture of their target. Sentinel's tracking led the team to the old factory district on the outskirts of town. The abandoned buildings stood like silent sentinels, their empty windows revealing nothing of what might lie within. The dog's behavior became more intense as they approached a particular warehouse, its faded exterior hiding recent modifications. Inside, they found evidence of recent activity, fresh tire tracks, discarded coffee cups, and a sophisticated communication setup. But it was what they discovered in the back room that confirmed their worst fears. A wall of monitors displayed live feeds from various locations around Harborview Bluffs, including several angles of the cemetery. The Phantoms had been watching their every move. As they documented the scene, Sentinel suddenly became agitated, pawing at a section of the concrete floor. Closer inspection revealed subtle marks indicating a recently moved heavy object. With careful coordination, the team managed to slide aside what appeared to be an immovable shelf, revealing another hidden entrance to the tunnel system. This new passage was different from the ones beneath the cemetery. Modern construction materials and fresh tool marks suggested recent expansion. The Phantoms hadn't just discovered the old tunnel network. They had extended it, creating their own shadow infrastructure beneath the city. Sophia's radio crackled with an urgent message from Captain Walker. They'd found something in the cyber forensics data that changed everything. Hidden within the quantum computer's code was a digital signature they recognized. It matched the encryption protocol used by one of their own team members. The implications hit Sophia like a physical blow. Someone inside their investigation was working with the Phantoms. The question wasn't just about finding Oliver anymore. It was about identifying who they could actually trust. As if sensing her distress, Sentinel pressed closer to her side, his loyalty one of the few things she could count on without question. The warehouse discovery had given them a new perspective on the Phantom operation, but it had also exposed them to greater danger. They now knew there was a traitor in their midst, and time was running out. The countdown timer continued its march toward midnight, each passing minute bringing them closer to whatever the Phantoms had planned. As twilight descended over Harborview Bluffs, the search for Oliver intensified. Sophia and Sentinel worked their way through the warehouse district, following a trail that grew more complex with each discovery. The loyal German shepherd's attention kept returning to specific points along their path, locations that, when mapped, created a pattern leading back toward the cemetery. At the hospital, Thomas Whitaker had made a crucial breakthrough. Working with his father's security team, he'd identified a vulnerability in the quantum computer's programming, a back door that could potentially shut down the entire system. But accessing it would require physical presence in the underground control room they discovered earlier. Sophia received an urgent message from the cyber forensics team. They'd managed to trace the traitor's digital signature to a specific time frame. The encryption protocol had been used consistently over the past 3 months, coinciding exactly with the period when the cemetery's network infrastructure had been upgraded. Sentinel's behavior suddenly changed as they passed an old storage facility. His ears perked up and his nose worked overtime, picking up a scent that made him increasingly agitated. Sophia followed his lead, her hand ready on her weapon as they approached a seemingly abandoned loading dock. Inside, they found fresh evidence of occupation, equipment cases marked with government cybersecurity logos, recently used computer workstations, and most importantly, Oliver's phone lying on a desk. But the groundskeeper himself was nowhere to be seen. The setup suggested this had been a legitimate operation until very recently. Captain Walker arrived with backup, including a specialist who had worked on the original government surveillance project. The specialist's face grew pale as he examined the equipment. "These weren't just standard monitoring devices," he said. "They were prototypes of a new security system meant to protect against exactly the kind of attack the Phantoms are planning." Sentinel continued his methodical search of the facility, leading them to a secure room in the back. The door's security panel showed signs of recent use, and Sophia's trained eye noticed subtle marks around the frame, suggesting it had been forced open and then carefully restored. Inside the room, they found a breakthrough, a detailed map of the Phantom network, including their planned points of access to the global banking system. But more importantly, they discovered surveillance footage showing Oliver being transported to another location. The timestamp was less than an hour old. The footage revealed something else, a familiar face among Oliver's captors. One of the junior officers assigned to the investigation team was clearly visible, confirming their suspicions of an inside traitor. But the officer wasn't acting alone. The video showed them receiving instructions from someone whose face remained just out of frame. As they processed this information, Sentinel's attention was drawn to a particular monitor showing live feed from the cemetery. In the gathering darkness, shadows moved with purpose near the chapel. The Phantoms weren't just hiding anymore. They were actively preparing for something. Sophia's phone lit up with an urgent message from Nathan Whitaker. His company's security systems had detected multiple breach attempts, all originating from different points around Harborview Bluffs. The pattern matched the map they just discovered, suggesting the Phantoms were running preliminary tests of their system. The countdown timer now showed less than 6 hours remaining. Whatever the Phantoms had planned would begin at midnight, and they still needed to find Oliver and prevent the impending cyber attack. The team's resources were stretched thin, divided between the search operation and the need to secure the underground facility they discovered earlier. Sentinel's persistent attention to the cemetery footage provided their next lead. His keen eyes had spotted something the humans had missed, a subtle pattern in the movements of the shadows, suggesting they were following a predetermined route. When overlaid with the tunnel system maps, these movements aligned perfectly with key access points. The pieces were falling into place, but time was their enemy. The Phantoms had spent months preparing their operation, embedding themselves within legitimate security operations, and extending the underground network to serve their purposes. As Sophia studied the surveillance footage, she noticed something crucial about the timestamps. The video of Oliver's capture had been recorded at regular intervals, marking specific points along a route. When combined with Sentinel's observations of the cemetery shadows, a clear pattern emerged. The phantoms weren't just moving randomly through their network. They were following a carefully orchestrated schedule, one that would culminate at midnight. The cemetery took on an otherworldly quality as evening settled over Harborview Bluffs. Sophia, Sentinel, and the team had returned to where everything began, armed with their new understanding of the phantom operation. The old chapel, once a sanctuary, now served as their temporary command center as they coordinated their efforts to find Oliver and prevent the impending cyber attack. Thomas Whitaker, having convinced his doctors to release him under supervision, arrived with his father and a team of cybersecurity experts. His intimate knowledge of the AI system the phantoms were trying to control made him an invaluable asset despite his still weakened condition. Sentinel greeted the young man with a gentle nudge, the dog's instincts recognizing the importance of Thomas's presence. The cyber forensics team had made a breakthrough in analyzing the quantum computer's programming. The backdoor Thomas had identified wasn't just a vulnerability, it was deliberately placed there by someone with intimate knowledge of both Nathan Whitaker's security systems and the government's surveillance operation. Sentinel's behavior shifted suddenly as a new scent caught his attention. Despite his injured paws, he moved with renewed purpose toward the area where they'd first discovered the suspicious grave. Sophia followed, trusting her partner's instincts implicitly. The dog's nose led them to a seemingly solid section of the cemetery wall, where careful inspection revealed another hidden access panel. This entrance was different from the others they'd discovered. The technology was more advanced, featuring a biometric scanner disguised as weathered stonework. Thomas recognized the design. It was a prototype his father's company had been developing, one that hadn't yet been released to the public. As they worked to gain access, Captain Walker received an urgent update. The junior officer they'd identified as the traitor had been located, but the situation had become more complicated. The officer had been found unconscious in their apartment, with evidence suggesting they had been used as an unwitting pawn in a larger scheme. Sophia's phone buzzed with a message, a video file showing Oliver. The groundskeeper was confined but appeared unharmed, his surroundings indicating he was somewhere within the tunnel network. More importantly, the video contained a subtle clue. Oliver's seemingly random movements were actually a code, one he had developed years ago during his military service. The cyber team worked quickly to decode Oliver's message. He had managed to gather crucial information about the phantom operation. Their plan wasn't just to breach the global banking system. They intended to use Nathan Whitaker's AI security protocol to create a shadow financial network, one they could control without detection. Sentinel's attention remained fixed on the hidden entrance. After several tense minutes, Thomas's security override finally granted them access. The panel slid open silently, revealing a state-of-the-art elevator system. The phantoms hadn't just been using the old tunnel network, they had modernized it, creating a sophisticated underground infrastructure. As they descended, Sophia noticed something about the elevator's control panel. The floor indicators matched specific points on their map of the tunnel system, but there was one additional level that hadn't appeared in any of their previous discoveries. Sentinel's behavior became more intense as they approached this unknown level. The doors opened to reveal a sight that left them momentarily speechless. They had found the Phantom's true command center, a massive chamber filled with advanced technology, multiple workstations, and walls of servers. But what caught their attention was the central display, showing a countdown timer now reaching its final hours. Thomas immediately recognized the setup. The technology here went far beyond what they had discovered in the other underground facilities. This wasn't just a control center, it was a replica of his father's company's main security operations room, duplicated down to the smallest detail. Sentinel's nose led them to a sealed door at the far end of the chamber. Through the reinforced glass, they could see Oliver working under guard to maintain the systems. The groundskeeper's extensive knowledge of the tunnel network had made him an invaluable asset to the Phantoms, but his military training had allowed him to leave them a trail of breadcrumbs. As they formulated a rescue plan, Sophia noticed something crucial about the facility's layout. The ventilation system used the same architecture as the original cemetery tunnels, creating potential access points that wouldn't appear on modern security scans. Sentinel had already picked up on this, his attention shifting between different air vents as he mapped out possible approaches. The underground command center hummed with tension as Sophia and the team assessed their options. Oliver's position in the sealed room presented both an opportunity and a challenge. While they could see him, the reinforced glass and sophisticated security systems made reaching him a complex proposition. Sentinel remained focused on the ventilation system, his military training evident in his methodical examination of each potential access point. Thomas worked feverishly at one of the command center's terminals, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he attempted to understand the full scope of the Phantom modifications to his AI system. The countdown timer continued its relentless march toward midnight, now showing less than 4 hours remaining. Through the glass, they could see Oliver carefully maintaining the systems while simultaneously leaving subtle clues in his work patterns. His military background had taught him well. Every movement, every adjustment he made to the system contained hidden information. Captain Walker coordinated with teams above ground, positioning units at key points throughout Harborview Bluffs. The Phantoms had spread their network across the entire city, but the cemetery remained the heart of their operation. Every digital signal, every piece of data flowed through this underground command center. Sentinel's attention suddenly shifted to a specific ventilation grate near the floor. His behavior changed from investigative to urgent, causing Sophia to examine the area more closely. The grate, while appearing identical to others in the room, had subtle differences in its mounting system. When they carefully removed it, they found not just a ventilation shaft, but a maintenance tunnel dating back to the cemetery's original construction. Thomas made a breakthrough in his analysis. The Phantoms hadn't just copied his father's security systems. They had created a mirror network that could seamlessly integrate with the global banking infrastructure. Once activated, it would be nearly impossible to distinguish their unauthorized operations from legitimate transactions. Sophia's radio crackled with an urgent update from the cyber forensics team. They detected a surge in network activity across multiple points in the city. The Phantoms were beginning their preliminary systems check, preparing for whatever they had planned at midnight. Each test provided more data about their capabilities and intentions. Sentinel led them through the maintenance tunnel, his injured paws forgotten in the urgency of their mission. The passage was narrow but navigable, clearly predating the modern facilities built around it. As they moved deeper into the network, they could hear voices echoing through the ventilation system, the Phantom technicians discussing final preparations for their operation. Oliver, still under observation in the sealed room, continued his subtle communication through carefully timed maintenance routines. His latest message, decoded by the cyber team, revealed something crucial. The Phantoms had a fail-safe system, a secondary control center located somewhere else in the tunnel network. Even if they secured this facility, the operation could still proceed. Thomas worked to isolate the AI system's core protocols, while his father coordinated with global banking authorities. The potential impact of the Phantom plan was becoming clearer. They weren't just trying to breach security systems. They were attempting to create a shadow financial network that could operate undetected within the legitimate global banking infrastructure. Sentinel's path through the maintenance tunnel led them to a position behind the sealed room where Oliver was being held. The old passage connected to a utility access panel, a potential entry point that wouldn't trigger the modern security systems. Sophia could see Oliver through a small gap in the wall paneling, his movements now more deliberate as he sensed their presence. The countdown timer clicked past another minute, the tension in the underground facility mounting with each passing moment. The Phantom technicians moved with increasing urgency, running final checks on their systems. Through the network of tunnels and ventilation shafts, Sentinel had found them a way to approach their target undetected, but timing would be critical. As they prepared to make their move, Sophia noticed something in Oliver's pattern of movement. He wasn't just maintaining the systems, he was subtly introducing small delays into the operation, buying them precious minutes. His years of experience as a groundskeeper, combined with his military background, had made him an unexpectedly resistant captive. Above ground, Harborview Bluffs continued its peaceful evening routine, unaware of the drama unfolding beneath the cemetery. The old chapel stood silently under the rising moon, its stained glass windows glowing faintly from the equipment set up inside. The peaceful scene belied the race against time taking place in the tunnels below, where every second brought them closer to either preventing or failing to stop the Phantom's ambitious plan. The maintenance tunnel provided the perfect vantage point for observing the Phantom operation. Sophia, Sentinel, and their small team watched through gaps in the aging infrastructure as technicians rushed to complete their final preparations. The countdown timer now showed barely 3 hours remaining, its steady progression a constant reminder of what was at stake. Thomas had positioned himself at a hidden terminal, working to understand and counteract the Phantom modifications to his AI system. Each line of code revealed more about their intentions. They hadn't just copied the security protocols, they had evolved them into something more sophisticated and potentially more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Sentinel's attention shifted suddenly, his ears perking up at a sound only he could hear. Through the network of tunnels, vibrations carried the echo of new arrivals. More members of the Phantoms were converging on the underground facility, drawn by the approaching 0 hour. Each new arrival increased the complexity of their rescue operation. Oliver continued his careful performance in the sealed room, each movement carrying hidden meaning. His latest pattern suggested that the Phantoms were preparing to move him to another location, possibly to the secondary control center they'd learned about. Time was running out to make their move. Through careful observation, they noticed a pattern in the facility's security rotations. Every 15 minutes, the guards changed positions, creating a brief window when Oliver's room was less closely watched. It wasn't much, but it might be enough if they coordinated their efforts perfectly. Sentinel's military training proved invaluable as they planned their approach. The German Shepherd's understanding of tactical movements and his ability to move silently despite his injured paws made him the perfect point man for their rescue attempt. His presence would also provide the element of surprise. The Phantoms believed he was still recovering at the veterinary clinic. Thomas made a crucial discovery in the AI system's code. The Phantoms hadn't just planned to create a shadow financial network, they had designed it to gradually replace legitimate banking operations over time. Their midnight activation wasn't the end of their plan. It was just the beginning of a longer, more insidious process. Sophia coordinated with her team, synchronizing their watches with the facility's security rotation schedule. Sentinel remained focused on their planned entry point, his body tense but controlled, ready to move the moment their window of opportunity arrived. The maintenance tunnel had brought them within meters of Oliver's position. The groundskeeper, sensing their presence, began implementing his own part of the plan. His movements became more elaborate, drawing attention to the front of the room while creating small but crucial blind spots near the back wall where the rescue team waited. Years of military service had taught him the art of misdirection. A sudden surge in network activity caught Thomas's attention. The Phantoms were beginning their final systems check, running diagnostics on every part of their operation. Each test brought them closer to achieving their goal, but it also revealed more about how their system worked, information that could be crucial in stopping them. Sentinel's behavior changed subtly as their planned moment approached. His muscles tensed, his focus narrowed, and his breathing became controlled and quiet. Sophia recognized these signs from their day's training together. He was preparing for action, just as he had done countless times during his police service. Through the gaps in the wall panels, they could see the Phantom technicians growing more confident as their systems responded perfectly to each test. Their security might be formidable, but they hadn't accounted for one crucial factor: the loyalty and determination of a retired police dog who had already saved Thomas Whitaker once and was prepared to do whatever necessary to rescue Oliver. The moment for action arrived with the precision of a well-orchestrated plan. As the security rotation began, Sentinel led the way through the concealed access panel, his movement silent despite the confined space. The German Shepherd's sudden appearance created the exact distraction they needed. his commanding presence freezing the Phantom technicians in their tracks. Sophia and her team moved swiftly behind him, their coordinated actions the result of years of training and trust. Oliver seized the moment of confusion. His practiced movements shifted seamlessly from maintenance routine to decisive action. In seconds, he had accessed critical system controls, implementing the subtle sabotage he'd been preparing throughout his captivity. The countdown timer continued its march toward midnight, but now it wasn't the only clock they were racing against. Thomas worked feverishly at his terminal, using the chaos of the rescue operation to dive deeper into the Phantom network. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he implemented the countermeasures he'd developed, targeting the vulnerabilities he'd discovered in their modified version of his AI system. Each keystroke brought them closer to undermining the midnight operation. The underground facility erupted into controlled chaos as the Phantoms realized their security had been breached. But Sentinel's strategic positioning, despite his injured paws, effectively blocked their access to critical systems. The loyal dog's police training was evident in every movement, every calculated action designed to maintain control of the situation. Above ground, Captain Walker coordinated with teams positioned throughout Harborview Bluffs. The Phantom's backup plans began to unravel as their carefully hidden access points were discovered and secured one by one. The underground network, once their greatest advantage, now became a liability as their escape routes were systematically cut off. Oliver's expertise with the facility systems proved invaluable as he worked alongside Thomas, their combined knowledge creating a formidable defense against the Phantom programming. The groundskeeper's years of maintaining the cemetery's infrastructure, both old and new, gave him insights that proved crucial in understanding and counteracting their plans. Sophia maintained tactical control of the sealed room, her attention divided between securing the Phantom technicians and protecting Thomas as he worked. Sentinel remained by her side, his presence a deterrent against any attempted resistance. The bond between handler and dog, forged during their training days, was evident in their seamless coordination. The countdown timer showed less than an hour remaining as Thomas made a breakthrough. The Phantom modifications to his AI system were sophisticated but not impenetrable. Working with his father's team, he began implementing a series of protocols designed to isolate and neutralize their additions while preserving the core security features. Through the facility's communication system, they could hear the Phantom's backup plans falling apart. Their secondary control center, hidden elsewhere in the tunnel network, had been located and secured by Captain Walker's team. The organization's carefully constructed operation was unraveling strand by strand. Sentinel's attention suddenly shifted to one of the technical stations, his behavior indicating a new threat. The dog's acute senses had detected something the humans had missed, a final fail-safe system quietly counting down alongside the main timer. Oliver and Thomas immediately redirected their efforts, working together to understand and neutralize this last-ditch attempt to salvage the Phantom plan. The underground facility's sophisticated equipment hummed with activity as multiple systems engaged in a virtual battle. Thomas's countermeasures clashed with the Phantom programming, each side seeking to gain control of the network. The approach of midnight added urgency to their efforts, the stakes growing higher with each passing second. As the final minutes ticked away, the combined efforts of the team began to show results. Thomas's modifications took hold, systematically isolating and neutralizing the Phantom alterations to the banking security systems. Oliver's intimate knowledge of the facility's infrastructure helped ensure no hidden surprises remained in play. Sentinel maintained his vigilant watch, his injured paws forgotten in the intensity of the moment. The loyal German Shepherd's contribution to the operation had gone far beyond simple security. His instincts and training had been crucial at every step, from the initial discovery of Thomas to the final confrontation in the underground facility. In the days following the midnight confrontation, Harborview Bluffs gradually returned to its peaceful routine. The cemetery, its underground secrets now secured, remained a place of quiet reflection. Sentinel, his paws healing under the careful attention of veterinary staff, continued his daily patrols with renewed purpose, his vigilant presence a comfort to visitors and staff alike. The investigation into the Phantom operation revealed the full scope of their ambitions. Their plan to manipulate the global financial system had been years in the making, with preparations extending far beyond the boundaries of Harborview Bluffs. The organization's sophisticated network, once a threat to international banking security, now provided valuable insights into preventing future cyber attacks. Thomas Whitaker, fully recovered from his ordeal, worked alongside his father to strengthen their company's security systems. The experience had led to significant improvements in their AI protocols, incorporating lessons learned from the Phantom's attempted breach. The father-son team's collaboration resulted in innovations that would protect financial institutions for years to come. Oliver returned to his duties as groundskeeper with a new appreciation for the cemetery's significance. His military background and attention to detail had proven crucial in preventing a global crisis. The tunnel network beneath the grounds, now carefully monitored, stood as a testament to the importance of preserving historical infrastructure while adapting to modern challenges. Sophia's role in the operation brought her well-deserved recognition within the police department. Her trust in Sentinel's instincts and her tactical leadership during the rescue operation demonstrated the continuing value of the K-9 unit. The bond between handler and dog had proven stronger than any technology the Phantoms could deploy. Nathan Whitaker, moved by the events and grateful for Sentinel's role in saving his son, made a significant announcement. The Harborview Community Center would be established, featuring a state-of-the-art veterinary hospital dedicated to caring for service animals. The facility, named in Sentinel's honor, would provide free medical care to current and retired police dogs. The cyber forensics team's analysis of the Phantom equipment provided valuable insights into preventing future threats. The sophisticated quantum computing setup, once intended for criminal purposes, now served as a research tool for developing more robust security protocols. Thomas's AI system, enhanced by lessons learned from the incident, became the new standard in financial security. Sentinel's daily routine now included regular visits to the hospital wing named in his honor, where his presence inspired both patients and staff. The loyal German Shepherd's journey from active police service to cemetery guardian, and finally to local hero, embodied the spirit of dedication that defined Harborview Bluffs. Oliver's office in the cemetery became a regular meeting spot for the unlikely team that had come together during the crisis. Sophia, Thomas, and Captain Walker often gathered there, sharing updates and maintaining the friendships forged during their ordeal. Sentinel would lie contentedly at their feet, his watchful eyes never fully retiring from his protective duties. The old chapel, restored and modernized, served as a memorial to the events that had transformed their community. Its stained glass windows now included a subtle tribute to Sentinel, capturing the moment he had first alerted them to Thomas's presence in the false grave. The image served as a reminder that sometimes the most important guardians work silently and without recognition. Visitors to Harborview Memorial Gardens often noticed the special bond between Oliver and Sentinel as they made their rounds. The groundskeeper and his K-9 companion shared a deeper understanding now, their experiences having proven that loyalty and dedication could overcome even the most sophisticated technological threats. Nathan Whitaker's company flourished under its enhanced security protocols, with Thomas taking a leading role in developing new protective measures. Their experience had shown that the best defense combined cutting-edge technology with human intuition and animal instinct, a lesson embodied in their continuing collaboration with Sophia and Sentinel. The underground facility, carefully secured and monitored, served as a reminder of how close they had come to a global crisis. But it also stood as a testament to the power of unexpected partnerships and unwavering loyalty. The tunnels that had once harbored threats now protected vital infrastructure, their purpose transformed just as the community had been. As spring returned to Harborview Bluffs, bringing new growth and renewal, Sentinel continued his faithful watch over the cemetery grounds. His story had become legend in the community, shared with visiting children and passed down through generations. The German Shepherd's unwavering dedication had not only saved lives, but it helped prevent a financial catastrophe that would have affected millions. In the end, it was Sentinel's daily routine that best exemplified the spirit of Harborview Bluffs. Each morning as the sun rose over the peaceful grounds, he would make his rounds with Oliver, their path taking them past Thomas's former gravesite, through the restored chapel and finally to the new community center. The loyal dog's presence remained a constant reminder that sometimes the greatest heroes walked on four paws, their actions speaking louder than any words could express. For in the quiet corners of ordinary places, extraordinary guardians keep their watch, their vigilance protecting us in ways we may never fully comprehend until the moment when everything depends upon their unwavering loyalty.